Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jason Bent, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I built these walnut and concrete end tables, and there are plans available for this. If you head over to my website you can see these and any other plans that I have to offer. So to start this project off, I created all of the lumber for my base, and when I say created, it's basically because I had a bunch of scrap wood that I wasn't able to use on other projects that I figured I could use for this project. So this gave me an opportunity to actually create all of the stock by just laminating my own pieces together, and I thought it would give a really cool look to the exterior portion of the base. And so to do this, I just cut everything into a bunch of strips, a little bit longer than I needed for each one of the pieces, and just laminated them together and glued it up just like you would glue up a cutting board or something like that. And this allowed me to have multiple pieces of stock generated from some scrap wood that I probably wouldn't have been able to use otherwise. So once I laminated all of my pieces together, I let them dry in the clamps for a while, then I took them out, and it was time to go ahead and start cutting everything down to the size that I needed. Once I had everything cut down, it was then time to go ahead and start laying out my half laps. So the bottom stretchers and the top stretchers are going to be assembled using a half lap. So to do that, I just found the center of each board, marked the width that I needed for the half lap, and then went over to the table saw and used a dado stack to hog out both edges and then take out the rest of the material in the middle. And if you don't have a dado stack, you could absolutely do this with a single blade, or you could even use a router. So before moving on to everything, I always cut a test piece first, just to make sure that all of my measurements and everything work out well. And I'm not somebody that likes my half laps to be extremely tight. I do want there to be a very slight amount of looseness or wiggle room, and that's really just to allow the glue somewhere to go once I assemble everything. From my experience, it's just really helped with the actual assembly process because I'm not trying to bang two pieces that are slightly too tight together. In this video, I'm going to be showing you pretty much one table, but I was making a set of end tables, so you're always going to see something else in the background. So after I had all of the half laps cut for my bottom and top stretchers, it was then time to go out and lay out everything for my joinery. And the joinery method that I'm using for these end tables is the domino. And if you don't have a domino, you could use various other techniques. Me personally, I actually almost used screws and then did contrasting plugs, but at the end of the day, I just felt like the domino was going to be faster and easier for me. So after cutting the mortises with the domino machine, it was time to do a quick dry fit just to make sure that everything fit the way that it should. And I want to expand on something a little bit more. One of the biggest things that I like about the domino is the fact that it makes doing dry fits very quick and very easy. And so after the dry fit was done, I was comfortable with it. It was time to go ahead and glue everything up. And I had to glue this up in sections because the two pieces are going to intersect each other. So I had to do half of it in one section, let that dry, and then come back and put the other section on and clamp it as I go. Now, the legs do have a 5-degree angle. The only angle on this entire piece is a 5-degree angle on everything. And I wanted to mention that because anytime you're using angles, it does present a little bit more of a challenge when it comes to glue up. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. I have these parallel clamps, and these pieces that you see attached to the parallel clamps are actually pivoting jaws that conform to the angle and continues to apply even pressure. And this is a perfect use case when these come in really, really handy. After giving it time to dry, I went ahead and looked in any of the corners where a sander would be difficult to get to, and this is how I like to clean my glue squeeze out. I personally like to let it dry, and then I'll go back with a chisel, and it makes getting everything out of the corner much easier, as opposed to wiping it down with a wet rag in a corner. You're inevitably going to have a little bit of residue, and you won't know it until you go to finish it. And so by using the chisel, it just makes the process a lot easier. And then finally, I take a very quick opportunity to do a little bit of prep work for finish before everything is assembled. So with the bases done, I went ahead and moved on to the molds that I was going to need for the concrete tops. And I did this two different ways, and I'm going to show you two different ways. One, Because the tops of the end tables are only 18 inches round, I was able to use my CNC machine to just quickly cut out a couple of circles. Then simultaneously, I went over to the table because the coffee table that I also made to match these end tables was about 48 inches. And so this, I just used a very quick, simple shop jig with my router and cut a circle using the router. So you could do either one of these techniques depending on your situation. So to continue on the molds, you have to put some sort of wall around it. And I found that this hardboard material, very thin, I think it's 1/8 inch hardboard material, seemed to work pretty good. However, if I was to do this again, I would probably try to find something that is a little bit more flexible. And the reason why that's important is because I learned that you don't really want to do two pieces like I did. Instead, it would be much more beneficial to have one piece that went all the way around, because then you only have one seam to deal with. And you'll see me taping up the seams using some of this Tyvek tape, which theoretically worked out well. But what I came to find out, and you're going to see this later, is that the concrete will telegraph everything. So any imperfection that you have in your mold, you're going to see in the concrete. And of course, when you get to the finished process, you can, grind that stuff out, sand it out in some instances. But if I had to do this all over again, I would use a single piece. When building these molds, it's important to understand that what you're looking at in the mold is actually going to be the visible portion. So you want that surface to be nice and flat, and you obviously don't want to have those seams. And to combat the seams in the corners, I use some of this black silicone. The reason I use black is because black is much easier to spot and to see, to make sure that you have enough silicone coverage. And if I had to do this over again, I would definitely probably spray it down with some soapy water or some water with some denatured alcohol, because it just makes the cleanup a lot easier. And as you can see, I had a lot of excess silicone because silicone is not fun to work with. And then the last thing that I did is actually add a coat of paste wax. And I will be honest with you, I really don't think this was necessary because I was using white melamine as my mold. And I just don't think that there was any issues with it sticking. And I had some good success, and I also had bad success doing either one. So I don't think this is necessary. Worst case scenario, you just disassemble the mold and take it off. Now that the molds were complete, I could go ahead and start mixing the concrete. And I got a lot of questions about this when I was posting about it on Instagram. And the concrete that I used is from Z Counterform. And they make these kits specifically for projects like this, including, say, if you wanted to do your kitchen countertops. And this stuff operates pretty much like any other concrete that you're going to use, right? You pour it in, there's a ratio, you mix it, and you pour it. Now, what I found on this project, and you're going to see this in a minute, is that I found much better success when I had it definitely on the thinner side. And as you can see here, you just mix it up for however long until you get that consistency that you're looking for. And then you're going to go ahead and pour that into the mold. And once you pour it into the mold, you're only going to pour about halfway, and then you're going to put this fiber mesh that is also part of this kit. And that's just going to help solidify and keep the strength in that concrete top. And on something this small, I don't even really know if it's all that necessary, but on my much larger coffee table, I think it was definitely necessary. And then once you've poured everything, then you just take the opportunity to use some sort of straight edge and screed the top and make sure that it's nice and level, and make sure that the surface that you're working on is also level. And then once that starts to dry, then I can go back over with this trowel and just really smooth everything out. And it really did work very, very well, and it was really easy to do. However, please don't think that I didn't make mistakes on this, and now I'm about to show you a mistake that I did make. Before we go any further in the video, I do want to share this with you guys because this is a good teaching opportunity. Things do not always go perfectly with this stuff. Like a lot of times it seems like it does on YouTube. This was the first test pour that I did. And as you can see, it turned out fantastic. When I went to go pour the second pour, I was a little bit too thick on the concrete, and this was the result. So what you just saw in the video is actually me repouring this small round circle with a much thinner mix. So I just wanted to share that with you guys and let you know that sometimes things don't work out. Okay, so with the concrete molds done, I went ahead and went back over while the concrete was actually drying. I let it dry for a couple of days, and I started to install some leveling feet on the bases. And I've done this on many other projects. It works really well. I just recess a hole and put some of these leveling feet just to take care of any imperfections in the floor. Once I had the leveling feet installed, then I went ahead and moved on to the technique that I was going to use to attach these to the concrete tops. I saw my buddy Keith from KJ Sawdust do this on some very similar tables that he built, and I figured it'd be a really good technique, and that's using the threaded inserts. And so what I did is I drilled the holes into the wooden base and had a little recess to accept the screw that would go into the threaded insert. And then from there, I was able to mark through that hole where the threaded inserts needed to go on the concrete. And then I could move the table base out of the way and drill into the concrete, which was a little bit nerve-wracking, but it ended up working out just fine. And with that out of the way, I actually went ahead and I used a random orbital sander just to kind of knock down any of the roughness and kind of smooth everything out. And it's worked surprisingly well. And before applying the finish, I actually flipped the concrete tops upside down and took this opportunity to put in the threaded inserts now before I put the finish on. And to do this, I just used some very quick setting 2-part epoxy and put the epoxy into the hole and then slid down the threaded insert. Next, I went ahead and started to apply the finish to the bases. And with most walnut projects that I do in my shop or for my home, I really do like using the Rubio Monocoat Pure Oil Plus 2C. I just love the way that it makes it look. The finish that I use for the tops is another product that is part of this entire system from Z Counterform, and it's just a waterborne protective coating. And I ended up putting 3 coats total on, sanding back slightly in between each coat. And the application was very easy, dried relatively quick, and I just used this foam roller and had really good results. And finally, after all of the finish had time to cure, it was time to go ahead and assemble my 2 end tables and see what they look like. I was really, really pleased with the way these came out, and they really make a nice addition to our living room. So again, if you guys want to attempt to do something like this, I do have some schematical plans available on my website. Feel free to go over there and take a look at those or any other plans that I have to offer. And as always, you can reference back to this video or shoot me a message on the different social media platforms, and I'd be happy to help however I can. That is going to do it for this video. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. And until next time, get out in the shop, try something new, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.